tuned in to Grown Folks Production. In the mix. With the commish, Nate.
Hey, welcome to Press Pass Live, your weekly podcast show for the OMFL, the world's oldest and longest online CFM. Started in 2001 as a PC league and still going strong here today as a PS5 league. Let me welcome in my buddy who I just called the Deuce Championship with, Mr. Maniac, and a new guest, a new face, a guy that we've seen make lots of content here in the OMFL, Mr. Big Hurt of the Atlanta Falcons. Fellas, how we doing today?
Super.
I'm doing good.
Mr. Big Hurt and I are going to play a game here in a couple hours, so you guys will see us right back. And if you're watching my stream, you'll probably see me cussing him out for just whipping my butt here. But let's go ahead and get over here. Oh, gosh, guys. Hold on one second. I'm so stupid. I forgot to turn on my PlayStation. You sort of need the PlayStation to do a recap of games. So while I'm firing it up, Mr. Maniac, I assume that you can do your own homework, or maybe not. Maybe you can't. But if you've got the games in front of you, go ahead and recap us about what we're looking back at as great games these past few weeks.
All right, so let's start off with week 13. There is several games we could choose from here. I'm talking like there's some good games. Minnesota, Chicago, 38-28. Chicago win there. Jacksonville defeats Denver, 38-23. LA Rams with a 30-24 victory over the Commanders. New England with a 28-26 victory over Atlanta. Man, it's just some really good games, and even a really close, not a whole lot of scoring. Giants and Tampa Bay, 13-10. That's kind of unusual. The game I want to talk about though is the New Orleans Saints and the New York Jets game. That game ended up being 32-31. Other game as I'm actually scrolling up, bottom to up, but the other game we're looking at was my game that I played against Dwayne. It was a 20-14 victory for the Cowboys. That was a really good game as well. But let's dive into the Saints at the Jets. Lots of offense from looking at the yards gain here. 348 yards for the Jets, 345 for the Saints. Man, they just almost even. Rushing yards, 127 for the Saints, 112 for the Jets. Passing yards, a little bit of edge there for the Jets, 236 to 218, but first downs, 19 for the Saints, 17 for the Jets. Looking at the turnovers, those were even with 2 each. Third down conversions, only 2. Red zone touchdowns, though, 3 for the Saints, 2 for the Jets. So looking at player stats a little bit deeper, Danny McDimes. I know Nate has said he hates that name, but
I hate it. I hate it.
It's like Roger was like naming names or something. So, but he didn't have the ability to name the names this time. So, but man, he was super on fire. 16-25, 64%, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 236 yards. Anthony had a solid game also, but he did have 2 interceptions, 15-25, 60%, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 241 yards passing, and was sacked 3 times this game, so he was kind of under duress. But, man, the rookie, we've talked about this guy before, Witherspoon for the Saints here from Georgia, 18 carries, 90 yards, and a touchdown, had a long 18. Not really getting the big chunk plays, but, man, just chugging down the field all game long. Braylon Allen, the big bruising back for the Jets, 9 carries for 68 yards. Did have a long carry of 23. Breece Hall seems like he's had a little bit of struggle trying to get going this season, but 8 carries for 37 yards, no touchdowns. His only Saints also get another touchdown from Miller in this game as well. The big play, man, though, for the Jets that I've had to see this season twice, Lowry, Man, he's been an absolute beast. 8 receptions, 123 yards, 2 touchdowns. Olave with 4 for 94 and 2 touchdowns. Also, Lazard, I guess that's how you say his name. But anyway, 4 receptions and a touchdown for the Jets. Also, Hal, I was kind of expecting when I was looking at this, I was kind of expecting him to have a big game, but looked like the Jets were kind of keying in on him, trying to keep him under wraps, and they did a good job. 5 receptions for 56 yards, no touchdowns, but at least was there present in this game. Moving forward to the defense, Joe Hayden with the 8 tackles on the game, tackle for a loss and an interception. This guy is an import brought over from last Madden, and man, he is a beast in the center field. Yeah, he's got speed for days. Durant, tackle leader for the Saints with 8. Looking at the sacks, we talked about the Jets had 3 sacks. Reddick with a sack and a half. I did watch a little bit of your game, man. There was some times he was just getting in the backfield immediately, almost, it seemed like. Bailey also had a sack from the defensive tackle spot, and Williams also had a half sack there as well. Interception leaders, Hayden. Again, we talked about Ayers also with another one, and then Davis. I didn't see that they had was this like a pick off a tight end throw or something like that, or?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I was using a safety, seen that old trick play tight end throw, and he was just trying to force it to his superstar receiver and got a little pick.
Nice. I was kind of confused because I was looking at the quarterback and I didn't see any interceptions, so I didn't bring that one up. But man, it was a good game, right down the wire. Can you tell us how it finished up?
Yeah, look, it's a crazy game. He had full control of this one for majority of the game. His defense was just so fast. That's a really, really, really good defense, and they really did a great job of keeping my guys in check, especially Hal, who had one of them stupid, hey, I'm leaving your team if I don't get 18 catches and 17 carries. I'm like, what? How? Oh, God. Anyway, and this one just kind of went back and forth and had just some stupid plays at the very end. He was feeding Rodgers. I think that's the guy's name, right? His superstar wide receiver. And that guy was tearing me up. Lowry. And we ended up making the play late in that game. And just enough running game, just enough offense to kind of keep this one alive. And just one of those games I absolutely stole from him and felt bad about winning.
It was a good game, though, man, and the score shows that with a 32-31 victory. Like I said, I did watch some of it. It was kind of back and forth. I had actually turned it on one time and saw you get sacked, and I was like, ooh, this is probably going to be a bad game. But yeah, you fought hard, man, and kept it going. So moving on to Week 14, again, has some really close games. Another low-scoring game, 18-16 win for the Commanders over the Jets. Jets in these really close games. Doesn't show his actual overall record on the season. He has been battling all season long. Miami with a 35-10 victory over Tampa Bay. The Titans get a 35-29 victory over Baltimore. That was a good game. Detroit 31-24 over Pittsburgh. Carolina 28-16 over Atlanta. Cleveland 38-22 over Cincinnati. The Buddy Bowl there between Lil Koch and Denbrew. Denbrew gets the laugh in that one, I guess. New Orleans 33-7 over the Vikings. So a lot of offense there for the Saints. The game we want to touch on is Jacksonville and Indianapolis. The Rams 35-10 over Houston. Arizona, this was another one I was going to talk about too, but Arizona with a 22-21 victory over the Seahawks.
We got to glance at it really quick because what a game there for Mr. Joker coming through in this one. 567 offensive yards gained, like just craziness. He scores 8 in the fourth quarter. I did not get to watch this game. I just seen the actual sort of score pop up, and he said something. So I'm assuming like late touchdown, screw it. I'm going for 2, mine as well. This quarterback threw 4 interceptions, had a QBR of 64.4, And somehow he still won this game. His rookie receiver or rookie running back, Meadows, 14 carries for 108 yards. Palmer, 156. Just a crazy good game from Joker.
Yeah, the one thing that I thought it kind of stood out too was the Seahawks were really starting to get their running game going, and the Cardinals just shut down his running game completely. And on top of that, they had a really good rushing attack to counter that. So, yeah, it's really hard because I want to talk about so many other stuff. So I try to make choices, but looking at the Jaguars and Colts, so I think this game was really kind of want to touch on. Offensive yards gained 292 for the Jags, 268 for the Colts. Offensive rushing yards pretty much even, 112 for the Colts, 98 for the Jags. 194 passing yards for the Jaguars to 156. Still, I think the thing where the Colts are struggling this season is passing the ball. He's just not comfortable passing the ball. Offensive first downs, 14 to 12, almost even there. Scroll down to the turnovers, 3 for the Colts and only 1 for the Jaguars. And we talk about anytime you have the turnover battle, 1 that usually is an indicator of a win in a close game. Third downs, 2 for the Jags, 1 for the Colts. Player stats. Justin Fields maybe finally starting to get a little bit more comfortable over there in Jacksonville. 12 of 18, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 189 yards. Richardson back from injury, I think, in this week. It might have been the week prior, but it seems like he struggled with Richardson, and I think he's on the block now as well. But only 9 of 12, 42%. 3 interceptions, just struggled all game long. A 31.3 QB rating.
That ain't going to get it done.
Nope, not good. Travis Etienne was 15 for 52 for a touchdown. Hubbard also getting some rushing in there for the Jags, 5 for 47. Taylor, he has struggled this season also to really get things going with him. 9 for 45 and a touchdown, though, and some other guys getting some carries. They actually did a really good job spreading the ball around in their rushing attack on all the guys getting carries there. Frederickson, he's tried to get rid of this guy, and he's still there in Jacksonville, still performing. 5 receptions, 116 yards. Didn't get a touchdown, but Brian Thomas Jr. Has been kind of off and on this season, but he's played a really solid game. 4 for 52 and a touchdown. And then Ingram also got 1 catch for 6 yards and a touchdown. Looking at the defense, the tackle leader was Blackman with 10 for Indianapolis. He had a tackle for a loss. And then your tackle leader for Jacksonville is actually Devin Lloyd with 9, 2 tackles for a loss. Sack leaders, we only had 1 sack. Walker had the sack. And then the interceptions, Campbell with 2, Cisco with 1 there from Jacksonville, and then Moore also had an interception for Indianapolis. I wonder if that was another tight end throw that was picked off because I didn't see the other one. But anyway, that was a good game. Definitely, this is one of those ones where you look at the stats and you see the turnovers being directly affect the outcome of the game. Moving on to week 15, which we are currently in. There's not a whole lot of scores yet, but there is 2 games that were really a really good game. Detroit gets a 26-24 victory over Green Bay. And then a big win by the Patriots, 34-31 over the Dolphins. We've seen the Dolphins drop 4 games since they started out the season, 9-0. They've dropped 4 games, and I think in the last 5 games, I believe. So, look, we're just going to take a quick look at these. We're going to skip over to the player stats. New England star had 3 touchdowns on 402 yards passing. Did have 2 interceptions, was sacked twice, but 23 of 31 for 74% for the game. Duke also had 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 2 sacks, 12 of 18. Didn't throw the ball as much as the Patriots. telling you what, I played the Patriots the week prior. He is a passing machine, and he has figured out passing. So if you're struggling in the passing department of defensive wise, you're going to have a hard time against Mr. Rusty Starr. Stevenson, this guy is not a flashy running back, but man, he gets the job done. 17 carries, 50 yards, 2 touchdowns. He is a red zone machine for the Patriots also. That's where he gets the ball a lot. A-Chain, under wraps, 3 carries, 15 yards. That's impressive. Yeah. A lot of guys getting some carries there, but nothing really spectacular. We're going to look at the receiving. The rookie, Tajay Ricard, he was on fire. 12 receptions, 229 yards, and a touchdown, along with 65. Waddle had 4 for 111 and a touchdown with as long as 70. Well, these guys were airing it out. Thornton, 6 for 94. Didn't have a touchdown, but, man, he was a big factor. Wright with a touchdown on 1 catch there for Miami. Hooper with 3 for a touchdown for New England. Wilson got a touchdown. We haven't seen him make a really big impact on the Dolphins since coming over from the Jets, but he is still there, and you've got to watch him. And then Christian Kirk also got a touchdown. Man, these guys were spreading the ball around like Oprah would. Like, you get a touchdown, you get a touchdown. Tackles, Ramsey with 11 with 1 tackle for a loss, and then his rookie phenomenon in the middle of the field, 6'3", 236-pound middle linebacker, and he is a beast. 10 tackles, 2 for a loss. So you've got to keep your eye out for him anytime you got the ball in that area. New England, their tackle leader all the way down to Gonzalez for 5. So not a whole lot to speak of on the tackle wise. They were just I guess going back and forth. But sack leaders in the game, Childs, again, I'm telling you, this guy is an undercard guy. He was drafted late. He's kind of underrated, but man, he is a beast in the middle of that defense for the Dolphins. 2 tackles for a loss and a sack. Judon with a tackle for a loss and a sack. Couple, there's 4 players here that had half sacks. Barmore, Godchaks, and Wise Jr. and White. I probably just messed up those names like horribly, but
Gotcha. I was like, who's Godchaks?
Gotcha. So
Anyway,
yeah, I know. I'm horrible with names. So
no worse than
Murphy,
me, brother.
Murphy with the interception, Ramsey with the interception, Harris with the interception, and Mapu or whatever. Man, come on, man. So, but each one of these guys had an interception. But man, talk about a game. 34-31 victory for the Patriots. Big win over the Miami Dolphins, who have just been almost unstoppable on offense this season. So great game, though.
It's been crazy to see their struggles kind of creep up, even though they have been really close games. So what's up, Denbrew? What's up, Bird? All right, we got a special guest here. He was willing to jump in. Our guy Dwayne was working and thought he could be up, but Dwayne's got a lot of things that are pulling on him on a work day. So Mr. Big Hurt was willing to come in here and pinch hit. Big Hurt, what are we looking for in week 16, 17, and 18 as we close out the season?
Yeah, there's a number of games out there that I think that are worthy of looking at. Week 16, actually I would say in looking at 16, 17, 18, there's actually a couple games where there's a matchup and then they play again like week 18, and one of those is New England and Buffalo. Jacksonville, Tennessee, and then Dallas and the Giants. I think both of those games will be interesting to watch just based on one of those teams' positions, like the Giants holding on to a wild card spot right now. But like if they could find a way to upset both of those games to Dallas, that could change the playoff picture a little bit. And then the same thing with Tennessee and Jacksonville. Jacksonville's hanging on to a wild card spot right now with a few teams at like 8-9 position. If Jacksonville loses both of those, that could kind of change some things there. So week 16, I was looking at the Tennessee-Jacksonville game and the Giants and the Dallas game, but again, those are kind of duplicates for the last couple weeks. So the one game that I'm looking at that I really am interested in is New England and Buffalo. Lost Sniper seems to kind of have a rhythm right now with Rusty Starr, and Maniac's defense is really strong and has been playing really well. I played him earlier this season, and I had absolutely no passing game. His secondary just shut everything down. So I think last time when I played Lost Sniper a week or two ago, he was number one passing. So I just kind of am interested to see that matchup. It's a division rivalry, but also the high potent passing game of the Patriots versus the Buffalo defense. And as well as both those teams are right now in playoff spots. And then week 17, jumping over, we have the Giants and the Lions. I think that would be an interesting game. Could be a NFC matchup at some point in the second round, potentially, or even first round. And then another game that I really like is kind of one that I think two owners that play really well, Cincinnati and San Francisco. Obviously, D-Money's kind of found his way and has bounced back and playing really well. But also, Cincinnati is somebody that is always usually a really good team. And for whatever reason this year, he's 7-6, not out of the playoffs. And D-Money, I can definitely see Cincinnati giving him everything he wants and more. But that's a really big game for Cincinnati to win. And then jumping into week 18, and I'm only keeping it to two games, kind of what we talked about. But again, we got Dallas and the Giants, Jacksonville and Tennessee, so I'll just count that as the one. But the one game, again, that I'm interested in, because of playoff implications, is Buffalo and Denver. Again, kind of Buffalo having a tough couple last games. In position right now, from what I remember, they got the number one spot, or they're fighting for the number one spot, but also fighting to win the division. If they were to fall with Massimo and the Dolphins a half game back right now, that could put Buffalo into a wild card spot. And then with that also being said, Denver is right now the top wild card team. The last division winning team. So they're the 4 seed. But with that division being so close, you got the Raiders at 7-6, the Chiefs at 6-7, and the Chargers at 6-7. That's a must-win game for Denver to hold on to the division and get into the playoffs. Not only just as a division winner, but wild card's pretty tight there as well. So that's a big game for week 18.
Yeah, and those Dolphins are going to have to play the Jets, who have an outstanding defense. So that's not going to be an easy game, especially with their offensive struggles here of late. I'd also just quickly point out, it's crazy that you found, and that's such a great find by you, that the Cowboys-Giants played twice here to wrap it up, and the Titans and who was it? The Titans and
Jaguars.
Jaguars, right? That's craziness that those 4 teams are going to be playing each other in these last couple of weeks. The other game that kind of caught my eye as we wrap up this was Panthers-Seahawks. Both of those guys, Panthers the number 4 seed currently, the Seahawks the last wild card. So that could be a game that actually matters, whether it's for seeding or for who's traveling to go see who. And we might actually see those teams, kind of match up a little later. So that could be a sneaky good game. Thanks, guys, for covering those. Yeah, go ahead.
One thing about that Seattle game that I want to point out is that's crazy, because as the Rams are currently 9-4, Seattle's 8-5. With that loss to Arizona, they're chasing a game right now to try and get into the 6th seed. And really what you're playing for is to not be the 7th seed, because right now the 7th seed has to go to D-Money.
which I don't think anybody wants to face either of those top two teams. There's a question later on in the mailbag that we can come back to. Mr. Denbrew, why don't you take us away for a little OMFL news?
Welcome back to the OMFL news. We are in week 15 of season 112 in the OMFL. I am Denbrew, and this is your OMFL news. And we're going to mix it up a little bit today. This is your holiday special edition with Santa Denbrew passing out his OMFL Christmas gifts today. And I'm going to recognize some of these outstanding players that we've got in the OMFL. And we're going to start on the defensive side of the ball. And I'm going to reach down into the old Santa Denbrew gift bag and find our first gift. On a little bit of a budget this year, so we got a paper bag. First guy out of the bag is Mr. Al Johnson, a defensive tackle for the Carolina Panthers. He leads all defensive tackles with 49 tackles, including 21 solos and 17 tackles for loss, and has 7.5 sacks for a defensive tackle. That's amazing. All right, what else we got? We got down in here, we got defensive lineman right in, Drake Jackson of the San Francisco 49ers. Drake's got 57 tackles, 28 solos, 21 tackle for loss, 12.5 sacks on the year. Just absolutely wrecking opposing defenses. These two defensive linemen just giving nightmares to their opponents. What else we got? We got a gift for Roquan Smith of the Baltimore Ravens. Roquan has 100 tackles exactly on the year, a crazy 45 solo tackles, with 12 of those being from behind the line of scrimmage. And I got one more gift for the defensive guys. And we're going to fly all the way out to Seattle and drop this one off to Devon Witherspoon. Devon with 49 tackles on the year and a league-leading 11 interceptions. How about those guys passing out gifts? I'm Denbrew, back with segment 2 in just a bit.
I love it. Santa Denbrew hanging out with us here today on the OMFL News. Vertical, I'm sorry. There's no way to put like the pretty graphic. I can't do it over there, but you can at least hear the OMFL News. All right, guys, now it's time to talk about the playoff races. And to do that, I'm going to use my guy Bill. Now, on the screen, you're going to see the game and sort of where the game says people are. But I trust Bill. He does a really good job of staying on top of this. This is our Week 15 edition, so a lot of games. Big Hurt pointed out a couple of big games that are happening there in the last couple of weeks. Let's start with the AFC. Here's how it currently plays out, and you guys can help me do some matchy-mooing up here. Mr. Tennessee Titans and Kobe are the number 1 seed at 11-2. Mr. Maniac is the number 2 seed at 10-3. The Browns are the number 3 seed and Denbrew at 9-4. The Broncos and Mr. Glaze is the number 4 seed at 7-6. Your number 1 wild card, the number 5 seed, are the Dolphins and Massimo at 10-4. The number 2 seed wild card, the number 2 wild card, not the number 2 seed. That would be the number 6 seed, the Jaguars, and our buddy. Why am I drawing a total blank on our buddy's name? No, number 2 is Jaguars. Fleury. God, there it is. Fleury, yeah. And the number 6 seed Jaguars at 8-5, and then Mr. Lost Sniper and the Patriots as the number 7 seed at 8-6. And that is how it's currently laid out. I'm trying to do some quick matchups. It looks like the game does show it correctly right now. Still alive. Bengals at 7-6 and Little Cottage. Jaguars at 7-6, and Mr. Raiders Nation, Mr. Chargers at 6-7, Chiefs at 6-7, and then it sort of falls off. It's the Ravens at 5-8, mathematically still there. Jets at 4-9, Colts at 4-9. Those teams are not going to make it in. Eliminated already are the Steelers and the Texans. Guys, let's break it down and start to break into each of these. I'll just leave it wide open, and let's go division by division, and I'll just let you guys chime in when you're ready to chime in. Let me bring this up really quick. We'll start with the AFC North. So right now, Browns at 9-4, Bengals 7-6, Ravens 5-8, Steelers at 3-10. Anybody but the Browns going to make it in?
I'm gonna say definitely. I think the Bengals do have a shot getting in. I think it's just going to be dependent upon what happens with that bottom with the Jaguars. I know Hurt talked about the Jaguars, and the Patriots also have pretty big matchups coming up. I got to play him again, not this week, but next week. So that's going to be a big matchup for him in that situation. So the Bengals, I think, could sneak in, but it's going to be a long shot. Obviously, the Browns have got it pretty much kind of locked up, I think. But I think the Bengals are the one that could really, make a push possibly to make things interesting.
Yeah, I think I definitely think the Bengals have a true shot at making it. The thing that kind of going back to my game of the week, Little Koch with the Bengals has to win that game against D Money, in my opinion. Again, he's chasing a game right now. He has the Jets, the Ravens, the Patriots, and the Niners. I think if he wins 16 or 15 and 16 versus the Jets and the Ravens, because he has more to play for at this point. And I think when Little Koch has his back against the wall, he's a good enough player that he's going to find a way to win those games, in my opinion. But again, the game that's going to be kind of like the momentum shift, whether he's in or out, is that Niners game in week 17. And if he wins that, then I think he kind of carries the momentum into the Patriots in week 18. If he loses that, he could find a way still winning 3 of those 4 games. But I think it's going to be tough because he's chasing a game, and the Patriots, in my opinion, they beat the Dolphins this week. They got Buffalo next week, the Jets, and the Bengals. So again, that's like week 18 could be a huge game. But the thing that's crazy is kind of tying it all together is, again, the Jaguars, who are also a wild card spot at 8-5, still have to play their week 15 game. But they got to play the Titans twice, which is the top team.
Yeah.
And so you got the Chargers and the Texans, their other 2 games, which the Chargers are fighting for a playoff spot. So if he wins this week 15 game, the Jags are then like basically 2 games ahead of the Bengals. Even losing those 2 against the Titans, they beat the Texans. I think the Jags are in. But if he loses to the Chargers, then the Jags could fall out. And then I think the Bengals could sneak in with losing to the Niners. So it kind of depends on how that Jaguars Chargers game this week plays out for the Bengals. But again, that week 18 game is huge for not only the Bengals, but also the Patriots, because that could be win and you're in for both teams.
I feel like I need draft paper to sort of follow that whole line of, man, there's so many important games as we get to an end here. I'm going to say Browns have it sewed up. They've got this Division 1. The Bengals are going to fall just short. And the reason is the Tennessee Titans and is still going to be fighting the Bills for that number 1 seed. But I think the Jaguars are going to win one of those other games, and the Bengals being forced to go play the 49ers, man, that's just going to be tough. The 49ers are going to be trying to get that number 1 seed too. And I think that's going to be the game that ends up coming back.
It could also be what happens with the money. Does he go on vacation, Christmas vacation? That could be a factor.
Good point by you. We'll see. I guess we'll find out pretty soon. Moving over to the AFC South, you have the Titans at 11-2, your number 1 seed. Jaguars still fighting there. They're currently right outside. No, I'm sorry. They're the number 2 wild card seed, so the 6th seed. Colts, Texans, pretty much they're absolutely out of it. The Texans, man, so much promise there, but 6-game losing streak has come back to get them. Mr. Big Hurt, how do you see the AFC South playing out? Which would these teams get in?
Yeah, so I'm going to answer that. When Maniac made that comment, I went and looked at the out-of-town schedule, and I just noticed
He's out to the 30th.
Big out-of-town. The Broncos and the Chargers are both out of town for like a whole week. So that Chargers game is probably going to be a sim or a computer game, depending on whatever. So that kind of changes things for that aspect. But Yeah, that's
and D
that's
Money's
crazy.
out
But
to the 30th.
There's nothing for D Money at this point, so we'll see on that.
Oh no, he said Denver said D Money posted out to the 30th. Yep. It's the last. Oh no, that's you. That's not who I'm looking for.
Yeah,
I think it's up. I think it's up here, maybe. Anyway, I don't want to block. Yeah, it's up here. No.
But going to the
Here it is.
to the AFC.
Yep, I found it.
Going
Sorry.
on to the AFC South to answer your question. The Titans are in there. That's a lock. I think the Jags have a legit chance to get in as a wild card. And it's kind of, they control their own destiny.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is, I kind of covered it with my last breakdown. They got those 2 games against the Titans, and then they also play the Texans and the Chargers in that Chargers game. Now that Pepper's out of town, he has to win that game against the Texans regardless, because that's gonna definitely give him enough cushion with those teams that are just sitting at like the 8th, 9th, 10th spot, because there are quite a few teams in the AFC right around that range. If he somehow finds a way to beat the Titans, and maybe week 18, Kobe's at a point where he's going to bench his guys because he's got the spot locked up, depending on how the Bills play out with the next couple weeks and whatnot. We'll see how it all plays out. But I do have the Jags and the Titans both getting a playoff spot. I have the Jags taking the 6th spot in the wild card, and I have the Titans winning the division. I don't know how that top seed spot, but he's either going to be in the 1 or 2 spot for the AFC.
I 100% agree with you. I think the Jaguars are going to get that number 6 seed and that second wild card spot. And I do think the Titans are going to have that number 1 wild card. I mean, that number 1 seed. It's going to be a tight race to the finish here, but I think that's going to force him to stay plugged in. Mr. Maniac, you're fighting for that number 1 seed. How do you see this one playing out?
Well, I see it playing out. Probably Kobe gets the 1, but man, I got my fingers crossed the Jaguars maybe can knock him off twice. But I think the Titans have really found their groove this season. You look at the points for and points against. I mean, he's rocking and rolling on offense. 406 points for and only giving up 274. So he's playing pretty solid defense as well on an 8-game win streak. I do know, though, like sometimes Madden can be like, we talked about like the Dolphins and stuff. He looked like he was unstoppable for a while, and then all of a sudden he's kind of fell like in the last 5 games, lost 4 of those. They've been kind of close, but, sometimes Madden can be Madden, and you can get what they call the Madden curse or the Madden jinx or whatever, and things can kind of unfold. But I really truly see the Titans are probably locked up with that number 1 seed unless something crazy happens. And I do feel like with what we talked about, the out of town game, the guys going out of town and the way that's going to unfold, I do believe the Jaguars are going to lock up that number 2 wild card, and they'll be a formidable foe in the playoffs because he's been pretty solid all this Madden so far.
Titans, 7 of their 11 wins on the road. That's a crazy stat.
Yeah. One thing I do want to point out, and this will be in your favor, Maniac, is the Titans' remaining 4 games are not an easy 4 games. He's got the road game at Arizona, a road game at Jacksonville, Seattle, and then the Jaguars again. So 4 tough games to close out the season.
Let's move over to the AFC East. We got the Bills and Mr. Maniac at 10-3, currently the number 2 seed. The Dolphins at 10-4, the big loss this week. They are currently the number 1 wild card, the number 5 seed. The Patriots at 8-6 are right there as the number 7 seed, the last wild card spot. And the Jets at 4-9, they are mathematically still in it, have a really, really good defense. They're not going to make it. This sneakily has become one of the better divisions. Maniac, it's your division. You're fighting these guys. You're battling. Jump in there and tell me how this one's going to play out.
Yeah, this has been a really tough season. Coming off the bowl appearance and then coming back in this season. Feel real strong about my team. The Dolphins come out of the gate, like I said, and they won 9 straight games, and it was looking like they were just going to run away with things, and just kind of again looking at points for and points against. It's kind of crazy that I'm actually in the division the third best offense, because these other guys, the Patriots, put up almost 100 points more on offense than I have, and which is crazy. But they've also given up 2 times as many points as I have on defense. But I think, like, in these close races, like, again, where you start looking at how your defense performs, I think I'm giving myself the edge. I hate ever, like, talking about my team or like, because I definitely don't want to give anybody any poster material, but my defense has played probably the most solid out of everybody in the division so far this season, and that can change. Again, like I said, Madden can do some stupid things, but so far my defense has really been the backbone of my team. My offense has had some games where I didn't put up any points. You saw the one game where I won like 20 to 14 or whatever. A lot of those games have been kind of in those situations. So, but all these guys, the Jets on up to the Dolphins, all these guys can win any week. It doesn't matter who they're playing or what's coming against them. So I definitely think I've got the upper hand, I think, for winning this division. But man, the Dolphins, again, he won 9 games straight, and he could go on a run and win another 8 games straight going into the playoffs and go to the bowl game. That's just the way it works. And the Patriots, you got to give it to him. He has battled and he has figured out offense, man. If he can ever get his defense playing as prolific as his offense, he is going to be something else to stop.
I got to admit, this has low-key become one of my favorite OMFL division races to watch. These teams all have started to find themselves, and I know the Jets' record isn't there, even though, like, he ain't complaining. He's going to go have a great draft, and he's going to be making crazy noise next season. I think the Bills do win the division because of the Dolphins' loss this past week, this past advance that just happened. Look for the Patriots to make some noise. Give me the way it's currently laid out, the way I think it's going to continue to play out. Mr. Big Hurt, how do you see this one coming through to the end?
Yeah, this is going to be a fun down the stretch, last leg of a race here. I think the Dolphins losing that game in week 15 is
big.
Not a surprise, because both teams aired out and it was a 34-31 game. But looking at the remaining schedules, with his week 15 game, the Patriots play Buffalo, the Jets, and the Bengals. And we kind of talked about how that week 18 game against the Bengals could be, winning and you're in. I think that, like Lost Snipers, I have him in. I actually have him get in the last spot, the 7th spot. And there's 3 teams that are going to make the playoffs from this division. That's my take. I have 2, obviously 2 in the wild card, and then so New England's taking the last wild card spot. The Jets game in week 17, I have that as a win. It's the week 16 game against Buffalo and the 18. I think he has to win 1 to for sure secure a spot, 2 to guarantee him a spot in the playoffs. But we'll see what happens there. As far as the division win, that's the crazy part. Like, I think Buffalo, and my take, is the better team. They've given up points allowed. It's 242 points. That's like defense. And my old motto is defense wins championships, and that's what's going to get you in the playoffs. But the last 4 games for Buffalo, because he has not played his week 15 game, he's got the division leading Browns, then the Patriots, the Ravens, and the Broncos. The Broncos being on vacation for a week, I think that might drop him out of the playoffs. Week 18, he comes back after being gone for a week. I don't know if there's anything for him to really play for there. And I think he beats the Ravens. But it's the the Patriots and the Browns week 15 and 16, where Buffalo's got to win those to basically kind of control his own destiny. Miami's got the Jets twice and the Panthers. And I don't know that the Panthers have a whole lot to play for because I think the South is locked up for Carolina. And so in the favorable schedule, I kind of lean towards Miami. But because I go back to the defensive thing, I want to lean more towards Buffalo. So it'll be interesting how that plays out. I'm going to say Buffalo wins this, but if Buffalo falls to a wild card spot, watch them to be a wild card team that no one wants to play because their defense is so good. And offensively, he finds his rhythm and he can make an easy another run to the OMFL Bowl. So I'm going to say Buffalo wins the division, but I think Miami could sneak up and snake bite Buffalo, push Buffalo into the wild card. But either way, it's a fun division to watch here down the stretch.
Let's wrap it up with the AFC West. To wrap up the AFC currently, we only have one team from this division that's in, and that's the Broncos. It's 7-6, leading their division. Now, the Raiders are tied at 7-6, and the Chiefs are 6-7, and the Chargers are 6-7. Now, Chargers are going to be leaving for a bit, so pretty much I'm calling them out of it. Denver is too. That sucks because we've got a really fun race here. All the teams are still in it. The wild card is, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there's a team that continues to sneak in there from the wild card. I doubt it. I think the division winner is going to be your only team, and all the teams are still in it. Hurt, how do you see this one playing out?
Well, with what I know, with the Broncos on vacation, the Chargers on vacation, missing the next 5 or 6 days, that's the next 2, possibly 3 weeks, depending on how quickly advances are. There's only one spot for this division, in my opinion. As I just said, that the Patriots, I think, take the last spot. So whoever wins the division is in, and then everybody else misses out just by a game on the wild card or so. I want to lean towards the Broncos or the Raiders, but I'm going to lean based on the schedule. I think that Kansas City wins this division. They got the Broncos this week. Then they play the Texans, the Chargers, and the Eagles. So that's 2 computer games there for Kansas City, whereas the Raiders have the Eagles, Broncos. But the reason I have the Raiders falling out is they play the Cowboys week 17, and I think Dwayne will be trying to secure and solidify that number 1 spot, so we'll have something to play for. And so I give the Chiefs the nod for the division there based on the schedule, but it'll be interesting because the Chiefs did lose in week 2 to the Raiders, so then it'll come down to division. So it's all crazy how that's all going to play out. But right now, just eye test, I have the Chiefs winning the division, the Raiders just missing out, and then the other 2 also missing out on the wild card.
Toss it up, put a name in the head. What if people start losing to the Broncos or the Chargers CPU, or agree to Sims and this is why playing games is so important. It sucks that guys are going to have, it's real life. So there's no judgment in this. Real life has to happen. You got to travel, you got to see family. Most of us can't take our PlayStations with us. So it just sucks that what looks like a really good race is coming to the very end. And it may not actually get decided on the field. And, that's just not going to lead to fun playoff games. Mr. Maniac, who do you think wins this one and who makes it in?
Yeah, this is going to be take a coin and flip it, I think. But the Broncos have played pretty solid, but they also are on a 2-game losing streak that could have really kind of solidified them as the champion in this division. Even if they were going on vacation, but falling the last 2 games, that really hurts his chances. I think the Raiders and the Chiefs, I kind of look at those 2 teams kind of hurt. I think these 2 guys have the best opportunity to win this division, just for the simple fact they are going to be here. They're going to be playing through that time period of those 2 guys. I want to point out too that the Chargers, he has been playing really solid. So if some way somehow he maintains and stays in this race, don't be surprised if the Chargers kind of leapfrog everybody and take that first spot, because I've seen some of the games he's played. He's played. Pepper has played like really good. Like
his
he's putting up some
CPU
points.
has won the last 2 games. He hasn't even been here. I didn't even know that until I posted and Bill said, "Oh, he's not even here playing these last 2." So like his CPU is actually keeping him in this race
for the Chargers.
Yeah.
Oh wow. So yeah. So it sounds like the CPU's no slouch. So yeah, that could be really interesting. But yeah, that CPU has kept him in the race. But I really, my heart tells me I think the Raiders are going to win this division. I just think that he was in the playoffs last season. I defeated him in the second round of the playoffs, and he really has a good game plan. The way he plays offense, his defense is a little suspect, but man, he can put up points. He's kind of like the Patriots from the AFC East. Man, he's really solid on offense. Has a good grasp of throwing the ball around the field. It's just sometimes the interception bug kind of is his bugaboo. So, but I don't know. Give me the Raiders as a kind of a dark horse or whatever. My heart of hearts says pick him for this division.
One thing that's crazy, and I think this is just a funny thing to look at, is Kansas City starts off week 1 with a win, then goes on a 3-game skid, comes back, wins 4 in a row, then goes on a 4-game skid, and now has won week 13. If history repeats itself, he wins his next 3 games and then week 18 against the Eagles. Though again, if history repeats himself, that's tells me that the Chiefs are gonna get in. But it's just kind of interesting how he's gone win, 3 losses, 4 wins, 4 losses. Like Shocks is up and down right now, but he might find a way in the playoffs.
Hey now, Bill. I don't know. My guess is as good as anyone else's. My heart wants to pick the Chiefs because, I want to see Shocks be able to play with his favorite team and win. But you can't, bat an eye what the Raiders have done. And, he's got the new baby in his life. And so I'm sort of pulling for him. I'd pick the Raiders just because I pick anybody and just guess. And I just wish these guys are all around and able to play their games. It can be a really fun end to the season here in that division. Let's turn our attention to the NFC now. Actually, what you see on your screen is what Bill has. And currently the Cowboys and Mr. Dwayne is at 12-2. He's got the number 1 seed, the number 2 seed, the 49ers, and D Money at 11-2. So those 2 guys still battling it out, but one of them will be the number 1 seed. The number 3 seed, the Lions at 9-5, and Mr. Tim. The number 4 seed, the Panthers, and Mr. Bird at 8-5. Those 2 could continue to battle it out between those 2 seeds. Could be go a long way depending on who's coming to see you. So that seed race between 3 and 4 actually is going to matter. The number 1 wild card, the number 5 seed, Mr. Bill and his Giants at 10-4. The number 6 seed, the number 2 wild card, the Rams and Logan at 9-4. Lastly, and not least, the number 7 seed, the number 3 wild card, Mr. Meek and the Seahawks at 8-5. Packers are still in it at 6-8. I do not believe they are really still in it. The Eagles at 5-8, the Saints at 5-8, the Cardinals at 4-9, the Bucks at 4-9, Bears, Commanders, Falcons, and Vikings are all out of it. But I actually think that all of those teams are out of it. I don't see any of those teams making a run. With the Packers losing, I think it was this week. I think they already played and lost in a really close game, or maybe it was last week though. I'm thinking about that one.
Yeah, I think they lost to the Lions.
Yeah, that wraps it up, right?
He lost
Close
to
game.
Dallas in week 14, 35-41, and lost to Detroit 24-26 in week 15.
So Priest's still battling, and he has a great team, but it is going to, I think, wrap up his season. He's going to fall just short. So let's break down these divisions. We'll take it division by division and walk through the NFC. I'm sorry. Let's go backwards, though. Let's go NFC West. You got the 49ers 11-2, Rams 9-4, Seahawks 8-5. Cardinals, though they're making noise here late in the season, they're out of it. How many teams get in here in the NFC West, Mr. Maniac?
Give me those top three teams. I think they're all playing too good right now to miss out on the playoffs. I know the Seahawks just had a little stumble against the Cardinals, but we've seen what Meek Boy can do, and I just kind of have the feeling like he's going to be able to get in the playoffs, sneak into the playoffs, and he's going to be a tough man. Looking at the current set with him being the number 3 wild card, that is a scary number 3 wild card to be coming into your house. But then that if it holds current, then he would have to face his old nemesis and Mr. D Money. So that would be a matchup for the ages. Yeah, give me all three of these guys. I really think they're gonna be able to sneak in. I don't see the Packers or the Eagles or the Saints. I think it's gonna be really tough if any of those guys can sneak in. It's possible, but I really don't see it. But man, the Cardinals. I think the last 2 seasons, because I know Joker, he posts in the chat a lot of times about how his season went and stuff, and I believe it was almost exactly deja vu from the last season where he kind of turned it on at the last, and he was saying, "Oh, it was too late," but he seems to kind of catch fire at the end of the season, but he is making things difficult for the rest of these guys, to solidify or lock up a spot. So it's definitely a nice, tough division here, but give me 3 of these guys to make it.
I'm with you. I think all 3 are going to make it. The NFC feels more set and secure. Now, look, teams like Cardinals, Bucks, maybe my Saints, Packers, they can make some noise in like messing up people's plans, but I think overall, what you see is what you get, and that's the way that's going to play out. Big Hurt, how do you see this one playing out?
I've got all 3 teams, Niners, Rams, and Seahawks making the playoffs. Thankfully, the Seahawks have the lead. I don't see the Packers having a chance to clip them because the Packers still have the Browns on their schedule, and they're 2 games back. So Seattle's going to secure that 7th spot unless he can get Logan on a bad day. But the thing about Logan is, looking at his schedule, he's got D-Money, which he's away. Then he's got Tampa Bay, Minnesota, and the Saints. I think Logan has a chance to win out. And if that's the case, if he plays the way he's been playing and he wins out, he could potentially take the number 1 spot in the NFC West, being that D-Money's on vacation, because D-Money has to play Logan, Seattle, and Cincinnati, and 2 of those guaranteed are while he's out of town, possibly 3. So, and he's 2 games ahead right now on Logan, but potentially, depending on how things have played out, Logan might have an outside chance of taking over the number 1 spot in this division. But for sakes, I think the Niners win. The Rams get the number 6 wildcard spot and actually go play Detroit in the playoffs, and then Seattle gets the 7th spot and goes and plays the Niners in the first round.
Yep, I think what we see is what we get right now. I think those guys are going to stay right where they are. It could be fun as we come to a close here. This is a weird division, the NFC East. Cowboys and Dwayne at 12-1, Giants and Bill at 10-4, Eagles at 5-8, Commanders at 3-10. Though we've seen the Commanders with the big win this past week, but both of those teams have already fully secured their playoff run. Just the way that this is played out with tiebreakers and everything, which is kind of crazy that the other division only has one guy already in, and this one already has two. I don't see anything different happening here. I think the Cowboys will potentially, well, not potentially, just make your prediction, Nate. I think they're going to hold on to the number one seed. I think the Giants are going to battle, but I don't see anybody overtaking them for that number one wild card. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because currently, if the way it plays out, you might have to go play the 49ers. And, well, I don't think anybody really wants to do that. But the other catch-22 is, like, you got to go play the Dallas Cowboys, and we've already faced them twice. Big Hurt, how do you see the NFC East playing out? Who's in, who's not?
Dallas wins this division. It's locked up. I think the two games remaining for Bill is just going to basically be seeding purposes, maybe on the Cowboys top end. If the Niners were to somehow hold on and kind of get some wins and help with the computer while D-Money's on vacation, that could be a seedings thing. But even if Bill were to win, which he easily could, get Dwayne both times, Dallas has still got Washington and Vegas, which I think he should win both of those games. Yeah. And he's got like a 2.5 game lead. So Dallas wins this division. The Giants are going to get the top wild card spot. I don't see them being caught, which that puts the Giants playing Carolina in the first round.
That would be a fun matchup to watch between those two teams. Maniac, you see anything different here in the East?
No, unless Bill somehow can pull off a miracle and beat the Cowboys twice. It's I think the Cowboys are going to be your unanimous number one spot. I think at the season end, I do think the Giants are able. Obviously, it's on Madden. It shows they're locked up in the playoff. It's just seeding wise. So if you're the Giants, you need to at least get a couple wins, so you're not having to face like right away the Cowboys again or the 49ers. I mean, it's just like, those guys are tough, so, yeah, Bill, though, I think one of the things we talk about, he's like one of the best defensive guys around this league. You look at his points given up, only 289. Dwayne has said it. Bill gives him fits. And so if somehow, some way, Madden shines on those Giants and he's able to get two wins against the Cowboys here late in the season, that would be just unthinkable. But reality sets in though and says, slaps you in the face like that ain't going to happen. But crazier things have happened. But just give me the way it's shown right here: Cowboys first spot, Giants second spot, and it's just going to add to intrigue into the playoff bracket.
Giants, Rams, Seahawks, arguably the toughest race we've ever seen in the OMFL for a wild card. Those three guys are going to have to battle to the very end, and it'll be interesting to see how's that play into the playoffs. Does it bring a lot of momentum into the playoffs, red hot, go on a run, kind of like my team did a couple of cycles ago? Or do we see the opposite of like they just had to swing 12 rounds to get to the playoffs and now they just got nothing left in the tank? We'll find out. From a division that has two guys already absolutely sewed up to a division that, well, is just absolutely the ugliest in all of the OMFL, the NFC South. Panthers and Bird at 8-5. In my opinion, no one else is even in the running, even though mathematically people are still alive. I think the question for the Panthers is, can they overtake Detroit for that 3-4 seed? Because I do believe that that's going to go a long way in sort of the longevity of the playoffs and sort of that second round matchup. And then depending like who's playing to get to the championship, I think that they could. The Lions still have a couple of tough games here left in front of them, but the Panthers have been playing really good football. I'm going to say the Panthers don't do it, though they're going to have the opportunity. I think they're going to stay as the number 4 seed. Maniac, do you see anything else playing out here in the NFC South?
No, I think like it's pretty much wrapped up for the Panthers. I've played the Panthers. He actually beat me. It was a close game. He won in overtime on a deep pass to Mingo. Mingo, man, has been him and Shepard has matched up from last Madden because he was my import and from the Falcons, and Mingo and Shepard have been at each other for several seasons, and Mingo has gotten the best of him several times. And if Bird can maintain his game plan, he's a formidable foe that can take out anybody. I mean, he's just he just plays a really good game. But if he ever starts making the mistakes or throwing the picks or whatever, it usually tends to kind of snowball on him, and he'll get behind. And but just the way that this is kind of laid out now, I mean, the Panthers are going to have to lay an absolute egg to finish the season for anything to change in this. And I just don't see that happening from Bird. Bird's he's too solid, too meticulous, I guess, with his running attack and the way he passes the ball to do that.
It's a special kind of talent to talk for 5 minutes about the worst division in the entire OMFL. Big Hurt, you and I have got our matchup coming up in just a little bit after Press Pass Live is over, hopefully. So you see anything different here about Mr. Birdman, and can he overtake those Lions for that number 3 seed?
I mean, looking at it, Bird's got this division locked up. I do think there's an outside chance mathematically, like you said. The Saints went out. You have the schedule to do it. But you have I think the week 17, 18 games are the games right now, because you're going to, week 15, you're going to beat me. And then you got the Colts, week 16. He's struggling to find his way still. But then you got the Cardinals and the Rams. Those are guys that have been playing better than one here. And locking the division up with probably about 10, 11 wins. And it's not even an option. Unfortunately, my team has just been so bad in playing in close games and not having good fourth quarters. And I think our first game was the definition of my season. So that's just been how it's gone. And then Kevin with the Bucks hasn't been Kevin in his passing game. And then I think you kind of were over hauling your roster. And then unfortunately, even the guys that you got to help overhaul your roster, you've had them out for quite a bit of time, like your defensive end. The number 1 pick was out first 5 games or something like that. So Bird definitely has his division locked up and is going to get that 4 seed.
We crashed there for a second, but I got it right back up here pretty quickly. I have no clue what happened. I was trying to fix something and didn't fix it. It ended up making it worse. So it is what it is. So let's move over to the next one. I think the last one here. We've got do we have 2 more? Hold on. This isn't going to work now. We've got the Lions at 9-5, Packers at 6-8, Vikings at 4-10, Bears at 3-10. What's happening with this one? In my opinion, it is what I think we've said for most of the NFC here. It sort of is what you see. That Lions-Packers game that just happened this past week is going to go a really, really long way in deciding how this one gets played out. And yeah, in my opinion, this one is all but over. Lions win it. Nobody else makes it. Tell me why I'm wrong, Big Hurt.
You're not wrong. The Lions are going to win this division. The Packers don't have a chance of making the playoffs, unfortunately. Losing those last 2 weeks, and then he's got the Browns left on his schedule. He would have to win out and hope for some help with Seattle losing, even though they have some tough games. But I don't see him upsetting the Browns and trying to make up the distance that he has in front of him right now. So Lions get this division, and the Packers, Vikings, and Bears are going to be outside. Packers just missing the playoffs. But like you said earlier, I think the Lions and the Panthers could shake 3-4 seed. I think with the remaining games, and who has like left to play, I think that the Lions having the one game up, they got the Browns, the Giants, and the Commanders. That could definitely be something to watch. But I think it stays pat where it's at. And I think the Lions get the 3 seed.
It's amazing how just sort of sewed up the NFC is, where there's still a lot of games, a lot of things going on in the AFC. Maniac, what do you think about this one? Lions, Panthers, been a lot of our discussion the last couple of minutes, but do you see anything different from what Hurt and I've said?
No, I really don't. I think Tim's playing really solid right now. He's on a 4-game win streak. It's, again, anything can happen. I think, though, just the way it's kind of laid out, I don't think the Lions, unless he just absolutely has a catastrophe happen where his rookie quarterback gets hurt, one of his big play guy gets hurt or something like that, and it kind of throws him off. And we've seen that, sometimes it happens and it just kind of derails any momentum or maybe the rhythm that you've kind of set up. So, but unless something like that happens, I just see the Lions. I think they're going to be Mr. Steady Eddie, and they're going to lock up that 3rd seed.
One thing I want to throw out there is the Lions and the Panthers did play head-to-head in Week 13. The Lions beat the Panthers, so if it does come down to a tie, the Lions have the up to get that higher seed based on that head-to-head game.
Yep. Interesting into the season here. Some really key games, especially there in the AFC. And with that said, Mr. Denbrew, why don't you take us away for our last OMFL news before we open up the mailbag? Take it away, Denbrew.
All right, segment 2. Here we go. Going to talk about some offensive guys, and we're going to start out on the East Coast. New England Patriots quarterback Rusty Starr. The guy's averaging 310 yards a game. He leads all of the OMFL in passing yards with 3,861. Got an outstanding QBR rating of 115, 37 touchdowns, and man, he's only thrown 11 interceptions. I threw that probably in the first couple of weeks of the season. Another quarterback I want to give a shout out to, give a gift to, is Jordan Love of the Tennessee Titans. Jordan completing nearly 70% of his passes, averaging over 12 yards an attempt, 34 touchdowns, and only 8 interceptions. Bam! That is amazing. And most importantly, he's led his team, the Tennessee Titans, to an 11-2 record. I got another Titan I got to give a gift to, and that is Tony Pollard. Santa Denbrew handing him out to the Tennessee Titans today. Pollard leads the OMFL in rushing, has an outstanding yards per carry average at 6.3. That's amazing. And he leads the league with 14 carries of over 20 yards or more. That's awesome, dude. What else? We're going to go out to L.A. We're going to drop a GIF off to the Los Angeles Rams running back Najee Harris. Najee eclipsed 1,000 yards so far on the season, averaging over 5 yards a carry. He's broken 27 tackles along the way, and he's got 12 touchdowns on the year, so a great season for Najee. And let's find a gift in here for a pass catcher. I could go with Tennessee again and give one out to Bobby Freeman. I could go with another New England Patriot and give one out to Taj Ricard. But instead, let's give one to Mr. Long Ball. That's what she said. Brandon DeMarco. This guy averages just under 150 yards a game. He has 1,900 yards on the year. What are we at? 18 touchdowns on the season, so he's having an insane year. Brandon DeMarco, way to go. And who else do we have a gift for? Let's head up to Detroit, drop one off to Sam Laporta of the Detroit Lions, tight end. Got to help out those guys, give them some recognition. Sam's got 52 catches on the year, 788 yards, and 9 touchdowns. That is all I got for your OMFL News Holiday Edition. Santa Denbrew is going to kick it on back to Nate and Press Pass Live.
Thank you, Mr. Denbrew. Appreciate you as always. Thank you for all the effort that you put into that. It just means a lot, and I appreciate you. All right, a couple of questions. 2 from Mr. Kobe and like 18 from Big Hurt, who's actually on the show. So I'm going to make his ask his own questions. Mr. Kobe says, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Pick a few teams that you think would be fun and tell us why they would get... Tell us what they would get from Santa this year. A good wide receiver, a breakout for one of their players. I got you. Sorry. I can't read or talk today. It's been a long morning already. I feel like as soon as my feet actually hit the floor, I had to get rolling here. So Mr. Kobe is asking, pick a few teams and give away some presents. I think similar to what Mr. Denbrew was going. Anything coming to mind for you guys?
I'll go first.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll say the first gift is my team needs a receiver and a pass rusher. I think that's part of my struggles this season. But I don't like to give myself the award or the gift because that's just not how Christmas works. You don't give yourself the gift. You give someone else the gift. And I'm going to say that I would like to give the Saints a better medical staff so they can keep their players on the field when they draft the number 1 overall pick, and he has missed a chunk of the season. I think that's unfortunate, and I think if you could have had some of your players that you drafted, especially that number 1 overall defensive end, I think you might have gotten another win or two, and you would be right in the mix to hopefully pick this division that we just talked about. Because in all reality, I think Weatherspoon has been a pleasant surprise for you in the running back. And like I said, some of the other high-name guys that you've got the receivers, you've got the defensive front, but you just got to keep them on the field. So my biggest thing would be to give you a better medical staff.
I think I give the Texans a all-star pass rusher, an X-factor pass rusher. I think if he had ability to put a little pressure on the quarterback, that would help lead to a couple more wins. We already know how great his offense is, and I like to give gifts out to the needy. So I'm not giving gifts out to these top teams. I'm only giving them out to the needy. Maniac, any gifts you giving out?
Well, I was going to say I'll gift Josh Allen to the Falcons since he needs a quarterback. So. This could be kind of fun, and it also could I don't know, I would probably take too much time like really thinking too hard on it, but maybe I can talk Dwayne and if we face off at next OMFL bowl matchup, if we ever cross paths again, maybe I can talk him into gifting me a trophy.
Yeah, gifting a trophy would be nice. I think I gift the. I don't want to gift the Buccaneers or the Panthers or the Falcons nothing because I got to play them, so I don't need them doing any of that. But I would gift the Philadelphia Eagles a more competent quarterback that fits his style. I've seen him in other leagues, like the NBC, for instance. Got himself all the way to the championship game, had an opportunity in that one to win it with his Eagles. And so I think if he just had a more competent offense, starting with the quarterback position, that would go a really long way. And then I think there's a couple other teams that I would gift. Maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I don't even know where to start. I think if I could gift him anything, it would be the gift of confidence. I just think that's all the Penguins is lacking, a really tough roster. But I think once he starts to get some playmakers over there, his confidence is going to start to elevate, and he's going to start playing some really good football. And last one, the gift of a better offensive line to the Minnesota Vikings. I think, I think if he had a really good offensive line, it would go a long way in him competing in a division that is very open to people stepping in and competing with So I think that would go a long way. Kevin says, dang, the Bucks can't win nothing, not even a Christmas gift. Hey, you beat the hell out of me, Kevin, so I don't want to hear you twice in like the same night, I think, back to back. So, Big Hurt, any other gifts you want to give out?
The other gift, and I kind of am jumping on the bandwagon there with you with the gift of confidence, and I'm going to jump and give the gift of confidence to Bronco Man and the Colts.
Good.
I think if he gained some confidence, found his rhythm in the rushing game, because Jonathan Taylor has not been anywhere what he was for Bronco Man last season. He's only not even breaking 500 yards rushing, and that was a easy 1,500 yard, 1,300 yard back last year. I think if he gets the running game and figures out the running game, his passing game would also elevate, because teams would have to stop that running game and open up more one-on-ones for guys like Adonai Mitchell and Josh Downs, who aren't elite receivers, but if they're one-on-one, they've got a little bit of speed, and they could, create a little bit more success and yardage and whatnot. So the gift of confidence definitely would go a long way for Bronco Man.
The gift of a running game, too. If he could just find a running game, he'd be fine.
Yeah, 100%. Then the other one that I would say is the Chiefs. I think if the Chiefs would find a way to, well, one, they got to manage his cap, but find a way to use Patrick Mahomes and his ability, just because his X factors and like what he brings to the table, he is so good. But if you could kind of turn it into like real life, and allow him to kind of be the Mahomes and the guy that Mahomes is, you've got the receivers in Rice, Kelsey, Xavier Worthy. So I would say the gift of finding the way, I guess, confidence, but I don't know, just finding the way, the rhythm of how to use Mahomes in the OMFL, in that passing game, because again, he's got all the tools there. He's even got a solid running back in Rooster Winters, with Pacheco still. So I mean, I think that would go a long way for Shocks fan with the Chiefs. And then the last thing that I would say is, what was the other one that I had lined up, was the Eagles. And I think if the gift of maybe trading one of these receivers that he's not really utilizing and turn it into more of a defensive threat. And I say that only because the Eagles have a good defense. But if you look at Bill with the Giants, he's built like a monster front seven. And I think that's what you have to compete against the D-Waynes and the Cowboys, because they are so good at running the ball. But he's not really utilizing Devontae Smith or A.J. Brown to their capability. Andre Isovich is his top leading receiver. So I would say if he had the ability to move one of those receivers, go get a defensive piece that would really help him kind of play to his division talents with the Cowboys and the Giants, that maybe that would help him kind of overcome that, let's say 500 mark, and maybe threaten in. I don't think the Eagles are that far off from getting a wild card spot.
Maniac, I think I accidentally stomped on your toe a while ago.
Oh, no, that's all right. So I've got this little quirky idea, so just bear with me for a second. So I'm gonna gift Mr. Meat Boy a gift of getting the monkey off his back in the playoffs, so that way he can advance to an OMFL bowl. And I'm gonna do a little twist. I'm going to be the Grinch and take away D-Money's DBs off his team and see how good he is with no superstar DBs.
I like it. I like the Grinch. Kobe, second question. What's the best thing about this season so far, in your opinion? He gave some examples. Rusty Starr's breakout year, or the wide receiver in Chicago going crazy, or something else. To me, this one's easy. It's been the close games. There's been a ton of competitive games. I was really worried in week one. The scores were sort of nuts, but it sort of has evened out as we have progressed throughout the season. And I think I really enjoy, I don't know why I keep adding these other words in here. I really have enjoyed the close games, competitive games. Even though I haven't been in any of them, I enjoy watching competitive scores pop up and know that teams like the Patriots, teams like the Raiders, the Chargers, like teams that don't always get an opportunity to win, get an opportunity to win here. What about you, Maniac? What's been your favorite thing so far this season?
Really, kind of. I was going to kind of say the same thing with seeing Lost Sniper. He's battled the last few seasons, even back into last Madden, struggled to have a winning record, and here he is, finally kind of the fruit of his labor is coming to fruition. And so because he's in the battle for a playoff spot. He hasn't been in this situation in a long time, and he does so much around here and stuff, and I'm really glad to see that. I think and then also, like you said, just the parity across the board. There's nobody really hanging with like a 0-win season. We saw that a few times before.
Or the other way, an undefeated season.
And so there's always that chance. And I think you see that even with the mentality of the league in itself. Everybody's not like, oh, I can't ever win. There's always that point, like before, like in some of those seasons where you'd have like me, for example, if I was playing D-Wayne or D-Money, just in my head, I ain't got a chance, and it does affect you, but you don't really see that a whole lot, so far. I know it's still there. But I think overall, you see, like everybody feels like they do have a chance to compete, even with like a team like Roger. I know he's got like 3 or 4 wins. But man, he's put some points up, and he's made some guys sweat in some of those games that he's lost, close games that he's lost. So again, it's just been competitive and really fun games to watch as you see the season unfold.
Big Hurt.
My favorite thing about this season has been, and this might be strange, and I don't know how to word this, but like the sense of realism and simulation play when you compare our OMFL stats to the NFL real life like stats. And I'm gonna throw a bunch of things here. So like, our top leading passing guy for passing touchdowns, Rusty Starr, has 40. If you go look at the real life, Joe Burrow has 39. And the funny thing is we're in week 15, the NFL just completed, and they're in week 16. So about the same point in the season, but you have 40 touchdowns to 39 in real life. And like even Lamar Jackson, 37, Baker's at 34. When ours, we've got Caleb Williams at 39, Jordan Love at 34. So like really very similar there. The interceptions are a little high compared, but it is a video game. But rushing likewise, like you don't have guys throwing crazy rushing numbers. But at the same time, like we've got the group of 4 or 5 guys at the top that have 1,000 yards, and in real life you see guys like Saquon obviously pushing a record year, but everybody else is 13, 14, 1,500 yards, so not too far off from where we're at. Receiving, like you have guys, Tyron Watts, DeMarco, the outliers above that. But when you go look at receiving yards in the NFL, it's 1,500 yards. So like we're sitting very close to what, even on the defensive side in the past Maddens, like we've seen sacks guys have 20, 30 sacks in a season. We're at 12.5 in real life. The 13.5 is the leader in the NFL. So we're very on spot with what the NFL real staffs are to what the OMFL stats are. And I think that kind of speaks a little bit of the parity, is because teams are having to build, strategize to what they have and how their team's playing and how they can beat another team. And so you're starting to see some of those scores, those upsets, because of those things falling into place.
Yep. Good find by you. Good stats by you. All right, let's get to your questions, and then we're going to put a bow on this and go scarf down a little food before I play Big Hurt. I'm going to be flat wore out before I even get to tonight when I got to host church. But Big Hurt says, of the projected top 10, Atlanta, Chicago, Washington, Pittsburgh, Houston, Minnesota, Tampa Bay, Colts, Arizona, Jets, in the upcoming draft, what team is most likely to bounce back and be a playoff team next season? I'll give you my top three. Number one is going to be the Jets. They have an outstanding defense, a playmaker on at wide receiver, a really, really, really good quarterback. He's going to be in the playoffs next year without a shadow of a doubt. Number two, the Atlanta Falcons. Big Hurt is a great defensive player. He's got tools everywhere. He just has had a little bit of an off season here. He's going to easily have a great draft. He's going to bounce back. He's my second team. And number three, I sort of bounced around, but I'm ultimately going to settle on Tampa Bay. I think that Kevin knows how to put up points. He got a little older at receiver, and that sort of hurt him. He didn't have the dynamic duo, and I think he's going to get that fixed after this next offseason with a high draft pick. He's got the quarterback, he's got the running back, he's got the defense. I think those would be my top three. I would go Jets, I'd go Atlanta Falcons, and I'd go Tampa Bay as 1, 2, 3. I think all those teams are going to have great seasons, but I think those would be my top three. Big Hurt, go ahead and give me your three.
Yeah, this is I like the question. Obviously, I wrote it up, but I would say the Jets are definitely my top team. I think he has what it makes to bounce back. He's going to have another top 10 or so pick. The other team that I like being kind of falling your top three, I'm going to go with the Colts. I think the Colts find their way. It's only a matter of time before he gets a little confidence, finds his way. Bronco, if you're out there, I think it's just running the ball, sticking to it, maybe not having success, but then all of a sudden, kind of the whole Derrick Henry mentality. You give him 15 carries, he only might have 50 yards, then all of a sudden he busts that one for 60, and I think that's with Jonathan Taylor, your line, your passing game. You don't have the elite passer, I think, but you build your team. You took Kansas State in the deuce to the semifinals. So we know what you're capable of. You were a threat all of last Madden. And I think you find that confidence, you're going to be back. The second team or the third team is, you could throw out Pittsburgh, you could throw out Tampa Bay, you could throw me out, you could throw Houston out there. I'm going to throw Pittsburgh out there. I think Penguins is not only the skills, but the roster. I think he's going to add some more talent to the team. I think the Steelers find a way to get into the playoffs. I like my chances, but at the same time, knowing what I want to do, we'll see how the offseason plays out. I might not have the roster that I feel like I have now. This is my league-wide announcement. I'm kind of blowing the roster up is my intention to kind of rebuild to fit me a little bit more. And so I don't know if that does happen and my moves play out the way I kind of hope. It might be another season of rebuilding for me next year. We'll see. I got some pieces though, so we'll find out. But I would say Jets, Colts, Steelers.
Give me the Jets for sure. But I'm gonna go Chicago. I think looking at his team's pretty solid, and we've seen what he's done with his wide receiver. Colin goes through these phases where I think he's not stat chase, but he chases for the records, and I think he literally just doesn't care. But I think he sets up himself up because he's gonna have a pretty good draft pick. His team has been competitive. If you notice, in the first part of the season, when he was really playing towards playing for the division, I think he was really competitive. But I think he just got to the point okay, I want my rookie to build him up, make him a superstar or whatever for next season, and move some pieces around. And I think that just kind of fits what we've seen from Colin from the past. And he usually, like the last couple of seasons, like he's always like really competitive in the playoffs, making runs. So give me Chicago. And then the other one, I'm going to go with Tampa Bay also. I think Kevin, he just has a grasp so much on when to take deep shots, when not to. And that's something that can be a really good quiver in your arrow backpack or whatever. So, but arrow in the quiver. There you go. But I think that if he can get his defense playing better, watch out for Tampa Bay. I think they're going to be one of the ones that makes the biggest jump out of all these teams. But yeah, Jets, the Bears, and Bucks.
I don't know nothing about quivering arrows in the backpacks, but I do know that Kevin knows how to play really good offense. Out of those same teams, which of the teams do you think will be right back there again next season? And I sort of took the different approach. Look, the Atlanta news that he just broke for us it puts a little twist in that. So that's his plan. Maybe Atlanta's right back, even though I think he could turn it around pretty quickly. I'd put Chicago in that bucket because I do think he's sort of stat padding, and I don't love that tone. Maybe I wouldn't call it stat padding, but he's trying to pump his players up. I think he plans on having one more season of really good draft, pumping players up, and then make a run. I'm going to pick my teams because of lack of talent. So I would put Chicago, Washington. I think lack of talent. He just needs to continue to build the talent. Pittsburgh, I think he's rebuilt some of that talent, but still needs a couple of more players to rebuild around. Houston, I think it's a quarterback position for him. What's he going to do at quarterback? What's his plan? Minnesota, I think, is a quarterback position. I think he could solve that in this next upcoming draft. And then the Colts. I think all those teams were teams just with very little talent. And I think that's been my struggle. Sure, injuries have played a role and all that, like Big Herd said, but my team just overall is not even remotely close to most of you. And so I just can't, it doesn't matter how good of a game you call, you're going to lose because you just don't have enough good players. And I think when it comes to Chicago, when it comes to Washington, Pittsburgh, Minnesota, Colts, those are teams just without a lot of talent. They're going to need to rebuild that talent. Mr. Maniac, what about you? Who do you think could be right back in this position out of those teams next season?
Yeah, I think, like you said, like Minnesota, Houston, Washington, even the Colts. I think there's a chance that if something doesn't happen, it could definitely be kind of deja vu for them. And again, we talked about the Houston Texans in a little bit more in depth in one of the previous press pass lives, talking about his roster. He's got extremely young roster across the board. Doesn't have a lot of veterans, and a lot of times that can, like I said, I think with play reaction and stuff like that and awareness, that can play a factor when you got a ton of like youngsters across the board. Yeah, they're going to be great here in a couple seasons, but again, there's a growing pains that you got to go through, especially when you decide to go young. But a lot of times, what happens, and because I truly believe Roger just loves drafting, and I know he loves competing, but he just loves drafting, and so he'll have a young guy that's building up and fixing to take that next step, and he'll trade him away for another top draft pick. Well, it's just a cycle that you kind of keep going through. Yeah. And you never really kind of establish those guys on your team. And I think that's one area I think you can work on. But like Pittsburgh, it could go either way with his team. But I think in a lot of situations, like he's almost kind of on the opposite end. We saw him kind of adapt to the Dwayne mentality of like get the older aging guys and bring them in and not have enough really youth depth on his team. And some Maddens it's worked. I don't think it's quite as clear cut on this Madden. So again, it kind of takes a little bit to adjust how you do things each Madden. But I really think that those teams right there could struggle again, and it may take a couple more seasons for them to really turn their team around. And then we're talking about the Colts, Minnesota, Houston, and Pittsburgh.
For my team, so I top 10 projected team. That's interesting because we have 5 teams in the OMFL that have 290 overall players, and everything else is 89 or below. And those 5 teams are Denver, Arizona, Indy, Washington, and the Rams. Of those 5 teams, only one of those is losing both players to free agency at the end of this season, and that's Washington. Washington's top 2 players, Jonathan Allen and McLaurin, are both set to hit the free agency. I mean, I think Washington probably has enough money, but they're both in their 30s. So at this point, does Shiloh turn around and spend the money? Because he's only got 8.14 in cap space. Does he spend the money on 30, 31, 32-year-old guys or that are his best players? Or does he literally throw the towel in and really start from scratch? And so for me, I think Washington's the one team in the projected top 10 this year that will probably be back. We could throw Indy. If he doesn't find his confidence, he may find himself back. I think Roger finds his way. He's got the ability with DeMarco to find some wins. Chicago, if he doesn't take care of the interception, having 50 interceptions, those are Priest-like numbers in the past. If he doesn't get that under control, then I think he could find himself. But I think if he finds himself down near 25 and cuts those in half, then he's easily a playoff team. So I would say Washington's the one team for me that I in that group of 10 that's probably going to be back. And if I was in his shoes, 2 guys that are in their 30s, my top 2 players, I don't know that I'm probably going to keep them and pay them the big bucks that they want, because those are both $20+ million players.
Yep, I agree. That's going to be interesting. Let's see if we can wrap this thing up because I still need to eat before I play Big Hurt. Let's see. If you could change one thing about Madden this Madden game to better the league, what would it be? I read this a while ago and been struggling with what could it be? What would it be? Again, I get to sort of present and sort of guide a lot of the conversations around here. So if I ever felt like there was something that would make it better, I'd probably just do it, or at least try to talk people into why I think we should do it. I think it's a good question. And I think the only answer I could come up with is, and I don't even know if this would make it better, it's just a guess and trying to answer the question, go to All Madden. And I do hope that the board allows us to try All Madden next season just to find out, does it make the game better? I was on the fence between the 2 pre-cycle because I felt like they played very, very similar. My tipping point was I was worried that the floor was raised so high that people would not pay players, the top players. And so it would make it hard to balance competitively dealing with the Waynes and the D-Moneys and the Meeks and the top, the Maniacs, the top teams. They don't ever have to pay anybody and they always have cap. It's really hard to make it a competitively balanced league, but I don't know that we're not seeing that here on All Pro. So I'm ready to give All Madden a try, especially now we've got 2 seasons deep. So there's been some contracts we've gotten through some of the contract things that I think will help that I was really worried about, but that was the only answer I could come up with. Big Hurt, I want to keep you last for this one since it's your question. Maniac, as a commissioner, you run, of course, a different style league now in the Deuce with it being a college league, but what do you think could make the league better?
I'm gonna take this like from the standpoint of like the actual game developers, maybe developing something a little bit better for as like I know they took steps to make the draft better, but I think there's still some things lacking in the draft. I think that they could do, and then overall the news things that are happening within the league. I think those things. I know guys have done a great job with doing content and stuff, but I wish they would make like an actual hub inside the league itself to where you could keep trophies and post things that were kind of important to the league, for as like player players that won awards or coaches stats and things like that. I think that would also be something that would better the league in the long run. For as like just the involvement on the game. I do think like the draft thing though is the biggest thing for me because, like I said, again, they've improved it, but I think there's a lot of things that they could do to make it better. But I will say they did take a big step in this Madden, changing it up, making it less clunky and just boring. But I think like some of the things like for is like in season with the players that you're scouting and stuff like that, I think there's a lot that can be done with that too. But I think that overall would make the league be a positive for the league to make the league better.
Big Hurt, your question?
I would say, kind of piggybacking off of what Maniac said, my take is for in-game, I like the rushing and I like the passing game. I like defensive, like how it plays. It just doesn't seem like it's like a free will of like, I'm going to run the toss play and get to the edge, or I'm going to run this power play and I'm going to literally gain 5 yards every time. Like, it doesn't seem like that. So you can really scheme like power run, zone run, and like defensively you can stop that. And this is just me personally. Like, I get to the open and I just feel like a player like Bijan has that breakaway speed, and I feel like he hasn't shown that in the game. And I don't know if it's something I'm doing, but for me, like, I have yet to have one of those big long runs. And it's not like I've got like a power back. I've got a pretty elusive, like faster back, or should be, and he just doesn't seem like he has that. The second thing is me personally, I love what the OMFL is and what it's always been, but I wonder what this Madden would be like with the switch rule being open. Because as I like the no switch rule, the way the game plays, taking away certain things, I wonder if that would open up like too much to be even more defensive. But that's just one thing that I was thinking of, is like kind of going back a couple Maddens where the switch rule was different. And now I'm so accustomed to it and I preach by it. But I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, I wonder how much differently this would play if we went back to that switch rule. So those are the two things that I would feel like. But then from a cosmetic, like developer standpoint, I think you could really enhance the draft, the offseason, the scouting for the draft, and kind of allow people to dig in, because I feel like you're scouting those 3 players or whatever that they allow, but you don't get to scout the players in depth of like who's in and find more gems, or kind of just taking a shot in the dark. And it always seems like certain people in the OMFL are really good at finding those gems, but yeah, I just feel like we had more parity in the draft.
I miss the old one where you could individually spend points on like individual attributes of players. Like, I wish there was some sort of combination of what we have now with that. And I think it could be better. All right, let's wrap it up. Last question. If the playoffs started today, what team in the wild card position could do what Massimo did a few seasons back and make a run to the OMFL Bowl and win it in this season. AFC teams are Miami, Jacksonville, New England. NFC teams are Giants, Rams, Seahawks. My initial knee jerk was any of them, all of them. They all could. That's not a real answer. So I'll do my best to pick one, at least one from each. Man, my heart wants to say New England because I'm always pulling for loss. I love how Fleury has flourished in this Madden. He not only has won more games, he's more excited. He's creating really fun content. That makes me pull for him. But then I just can't shake the hard truth that Miami looked unstoppable for about 10 weeks this season. And that team getting on a red streak, a hot streak as we move into the playoffs, he could do some damage. On the other side, I sort of went all over here. I'd have to say there's something up with Seattle. Can't put my finger on it, but something just a little off about Seattle. And yeah, he showed up for that 49ers game this season, but he's dropped some other games that you wouldn't expect him to do or to drop. The Rams, I still think there's going to be a slight talent issue. You think he needs a bit more time with that roster to get them where he wants to get them. And so I'm going to go with the Giants. He's been there. He's done that. He is a really good defensive player that can stretch you offensively. I still think he's a couple players away from making that true Massimo run. But if there is a team, I would put my money on him. Mr. Big Hurt, I'm going to save you because it's your question. So, Maniac, which of those teams do you think could go on that Massimo run?
For me, I think it's the Dolphins, especially if they maintain the wild card. They may not even be the wild card. They may be the division leader. So, but with the current listing, the Dolphins, I think, has the best chance to be the Massimo, Massimo himself. New England is intriguing. I do think, though, he kind of has the same problem as the Dolphins. The defense not real dominant at times. They seem to have really holes in the defense, and so that can be a crazy situation in playoffs with trying to maintain leads and different things. But just for the sake of time, give me the Dolphins, and I think Seattle and the Rams are kind of both neck and neck. But give me the Rams. We just saw Loganator in the college football championship game. I think he's really high right now. I think he's got momentum behind him and could make a run.
Wait a second. Is he high or hot? Which of the two? You said high. He might be high. I don't know if that's going to help him in the playoffs.
He might be really high. But yeah, give me the Rams and the Dolphins.
Big Hurt, what you got?
So I think Massimo definitely is the one in the AFC that can make kind of the run. Defensively, I think he hasn't put up the numbers, but I think when you look at it from a roster talent standpoint, he has the guys to do it. He has the edge guys, he has the corners, and he's got the athletic linebackers to really, make a change and lock down things come playoff time. Jacksonville, I think they have the roster, but I think he just is not quite there from an offensive standpoint. Like Massimo's offense is elite. That's the thing that comes to it, though, is the Patriots, I think they have the offense, but unfortunately, talent standpoint on defense, I question if they could even, hold a team under, 28 points. And hold a team to 21 or 20 points or less. So I would say the Dolphins is my AFC team. The NFC team, I think all three teams can do it. Nate, you made a point, roster standpoint. I go back to my last question or two ago that the Rams are one of 5 teams with only 290 overall players. So I think the roster talent standpoint is definitely, which is very impressive that Logan's done what he's done. He also, like Maniac just said, was in the Deuce Bowl or the Deuce Championship game. So, I mean, he's got it there. But I'm going to stick with Bill. I think Bill's, once he gets his confidence, his groove, and he has that right now, he's a good defensive player. And on top of that, he's played in those games 2 times a year against the Cowboys. And then whatever other games he gets, I think he's on the verge of busting through. He's got the front seven to stop the run game, the DBs to play with all the receivers, and offensively, like, he's got talent there. So I think the Giants are the team that can keep the run on the NFC side.
I agree. I'm trying to reset something. I thought I could finish before you finished talking, and I'm missing the hole. That's what she said. Anyway, yeah, I think any of those teams could do it, and it's going to be a fun playoffs. By the time we come back next Monday, it will be time to start to look at the playoffs, give our playoff predictions, talk a little bit about who we think can win the OMFL Bowl for season 112. Hurt, thanks for jumping in with us. Maniac, give me one final thought. Big Hurt, we'll come to you for one final thought. I'm going to go scarf down some food and then hopefully play Mr. Big Hurt.
It's been a good season so far. The guys are really competing. The parity is there, and it's good for the league. Really excited to see how the playoffs unfold, or how the season unfolds for the playoffs. But I just want to take time to say, wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, because make sure you love and hug your loved ones around you, and tell them that you love them, because you never know what may happen. So, but wish everyone a blessed holiday season.
Life happens fast, man. Enjoy the moments that you've been given. Mr. Hurt, take us away with one final thought.
Yeah, I mean, as this season's been brutal for me, I've lost a handful of games that I felt like I could have easily won against some of the top dogs in this league. It's been frustrating, but I would say even with me having the worst record in this league, I'm still enjoying it. Unlike last Madden's where I had 500 or a playoff record and I was frustrated with the game, this game is played different. It's played better, and I talked about how in similarities to real life, it's there. I think it's just me finding my team, the way I play, and building it to my strengths is the thing that I need to do. And that's kind of something I took a step back and looked at. And I think there's some other guys out there. We talked about it throughout the show, and the one that I'll hit hard on is Bronco with the Colts. I think if guys really tune in to finding what their strength is, how they play, how they want to play, build your team to that, it'll even create more parity that we already have. And that's the best thing about this league is the parity. And then it's fun competing each week. But other than that, just enjoy Christmas around your loved ones, your family. Take the time, enjoy the breaks. I know we got a couple guys on vacay and that are out of town. So enjoy the time. I'm enjoying my 2 weeks away from school, which is why I've been so busy and I've not done a few shows like I wanted to. But I'm hoping to kind of get back into that. But enjoy you guys' Christmas, and let's get to that draft so I can get this thing turned around.
Yeah, we could be to the draft. If I know guys around here in this 2 weeks, we might be able to get to the draft. It's a stretch. It's a long stretch, but who knows? If we get these going, we could get there. Guys, thank you, Big Hurt, for stepping in for Wayne. Wayne, I hope you're good. I know you're working really busy. Thanks, Maniac, for hanging out with me a lot here this morning. I'm going to go scarf down some food. I got nothing else to say. These guys have said it all. It's all been covered. We've said all the words, and it's been a really good show, so I appreciate it. Guys, remember, take care of yourselves. Take care of those around you. I love you. You matter. Come hang out with me in a few minutes as I play Mr. Big Hurt and probably get really angry for no reason at all and give him another victory and worsen his record for one of those top draft picks. So till then, guys, we'll see you in just a little bit. Take care.
Bye, sis.
Smash that like and subscribe.